Hey there, I'm so glad you're here. I got to tell you about this beautiful washstand that I got. My family and I were on a weekend away visiting family, and we went to this beautiful state park that has a natural spring. We frequent this every time we're there. And as we were driving back, I realized a friend of mine was having an estate sale for her mother, and I had missed it because we were on the road coming back from our trip, and I was super bummed. But I texted her and I said, "Hey, do you happen to have these beautiful furniture pieces left still for sale?" And she messaged me and said, "Yes, when can you come pick them up?" And she was so sweet. She let me come in like a private sale for myself before they got rid of everything, and she gave me a terrific deal, and I was able to get this beautiful washstand and some other things that, well, I filled my van, and let's just say if I had a bigger van, I probably would have bought more things, but this one was beautiful. She's antique, she's tiger wood, she just has a little bit of damage to the veneer and just a few things to repair. This drawer doesn't move super well, and the top had some refinishing to do. But all in all, she is so sturdy and beautiful. I love that this is easily removable so someone can use it either with or without the towel rack. And here's kind of how she looks to begin with. So first of all, we start out always by cleaning, giving it a really good degreasing clean. I like to use Simple Green. It seems to be the best one, and it's pretty mild. Something I loved about this piece was the curves around the top and the drawers as well. I just thought it was so interesting. These are the two boards that hold the towel rack on. So removed those and removed the handles and the drawer pulls. And I actually like to use my vacuum and the little attachment to try and get all of the dust bunnies out. It just kind of makes it easier. I should really consider getting a smaller vacuum. But anyway, just using the one I have for now. So making sure everything's nice and clean. And here we are already sanding the top. I could not wait to see what was underneath all of the finish. And I was sanding the top back to bare wood. As usual, I have a plan in mind that can go a few directions, but I am not 100% set on any given finish, but I'll tell you what I was planning. Either I wanted to make it just a little bit darker. I like a dark walnut. It's probably my favorite finish. And I wanted to just stain the whole piece that dark walnut. Or I was thinking of, if I was not able to stain it, my contingency plan is, I actually have two contingency plans, but contingency number one is to I was going to paint wash it because I recently paint washed for the first time and I really like it. So my thought was a beige paint wash, or if that wasn't going to work, if it was way too damaged to paint wash, my contingency number two is to just paint the whole thing. Hopefully with leaving the top the wood color, the natural wood, and painting the bottom and the drawer fronts and all that. But as always, we are going to wait and see how this shakes out, how the finish looks, what it's going to be able to hold. And we're going to find there are a few snags up ahead. So let's buckle up. And as you'll notice, I'm spending an awful lot of time sanding because for every frame that you see, it's sped up 8 times. So it took me hours upon hours to sand this piece, just every single surface back to the original bare wood. And I feel compelled to tell you that because I want you to know, before you see the decision I make on the finish, that I tried really, really hard to make sure I could do a really good stain finish on this, and I did my best effort. So I did find out, and it's written on the back, that this piece of furniture was from the Wiley & Co. New Market, Iowa furniture store, and I did look it up online, and it is used to be a furniture store, and I had trouble dating it or finding any other information, but that's what I found out. And then my earbud fell out of my ear on a very muddy day. And there it is. Poor earbud. I'm going to have to go down there and get it, aren't I? Okay, so I saved my earbud. And it is so muddy. And that's why I'm barefoot. Is because it's so muddy. But now the sun's out and it's so hot. So I recommend cooling off with a great cup of homemade kombucha. Sorry, you can't all have a cup of my mom's homemade kombucha because it's wonderful. But moving on, again with the sanding. I am giving my best effort, like I said, and what I really wanted to do was to get that top, at the very least, I wanted to get the top part completely sanded back. And so that meant going around that little edge, that little lip, and it was a labor of love. And I would be remiss if I didn't share with you my new favorite sandpaper. It's the 3M Extract sandpaper, and it just seems like it cuts my sanding time in half. Way less frustrating to get those really stubborn finishes off. I have the multi-pack that has 60, 80, 120, 220, and highly recommend that sandpaper. It's great stuff. It's not cheap, but it's great. And I will link that in the description because you need to get you some. It's wonderful. So another thing I'm trying out is the acetone finish remover. Okay, so acetone with a wire brush and a Brillo pad or steel wool. Sorry, this is steel wool. I don't know. It didn't work either, but lots of people had tried this online, and I was going to try it out to get some of this finish out from this little groove, and it seems like it did a little bit. You'll notice it got a little bit lighter, but man, this was a stubborn, just like the wood grain was really deep, and down in that groove, I couldn't sand it flush, and so I had a lot of trouble getting it cleaned. So here I'm trying to just maybe sand it a little bit, and I'm telling you, it's not working. So here was the trouble that I was running into. I could not get the dark out of that little groove. And I knew from experience, if I do not get all of the stain and finish out of that little area, it's going to show up in whatever stain that I use. It's just not going to stick in those places, and it's going to look splotchy. It's going to look uneven. And so here's where my dreams are kind of dashed for the dark walnut finish that I really wanted on this, because obviously you can tell it's already a little bit splotchy and different colors from the top to the bottom. And it totally doesn't match the sides either. So here I'm just giving my last ditch effort with the acetone, which does work on some finishes, but not all. And again, you can see here, the drawer does not match the stand very well. So my stain plan is out the window. See, it's lighter here. These match, but this one doesn't match. The grain looks different, and on the sides looks different, and on the top looks different. So, okay, back to the drawing board. We're going with contingency plan number, paint it all. But before I can get to the finishing, I needed to do some cleaning further. Using Barkeeper's Friend, I've heard, is a way to remove stains off of furniture, and this one was having a specific problem with grease spots pulling through after I'd sanded it, and as it sat out, it would just kind of seep to the surface. So I used the Barkeeper's Friend. I actually let it sit on there on a damp surface for a little while I prepare the towel stand by sanding it. I'm just doing a scuff sand because at this point, I know that the final project is going to have a painted finish. So scrubbing and scrubbing and scrubbing. And unfortunately, the Barkeeper's Friend did an okay job, but it didn't do a very complete job. These tiny little spot stains, I don't know, it's like a grease coming through the surface, was just relentless. So I would spread out, it would go on damp, and I would kind of like pile it on, and then I spread it out over the whole piece dry, and then I took a wet rag and just like scrubbed it into the wood, and to no avail. Those spots would still come through. You can see them over here on the left side, just where the wood is a little darker. And the next thing I'm trying is undiluted simple green. Like I said, it's a favorite degreaser of mine, and so here we go. We're gonna just try it and see. I'm gonna let it sit on the surface of raw wood. I can't believe I'm doing this. So I did that and scrubbed it clean, and look at the difference. Surprisingly, it looks pretty good. You can't hardly see the stains on the top anymore. So that was a win. I took a chance on that, maybe leaving watermarks and staining further, but it did fine. It seems like it really degreased the surface, and I'm happy with how it turned out. So funny thing, I sat down to actually start painting this black. That was the plan. And instead I picked up my sander. You can see the paint sitting right next to me. I decided to wait, and I picked up the sander. I thought, what am I going to do here? What else am I going to do here? I'm going to sand it again and just see if I can get it a better finish to work with. And I decided, no black today. We're not doing the black. The black paint is going away. I think I was just killing myself to sand and sand and sand even more, because I just would not give up on this beautiful tiger wood grain. Every time I tried to just put the sander down and paint it, I just kept thinking about that wood grain. I couldn't cover it up. And unfortunately, as is the case this summer, it has started raining. And so I have to move this inside. But I'm going to show you what my next plan is to save the wood grain and yet to avoid the splotchy stain. And it's going to be to make the paint wash. I'm doing the paint wash. Yep, that's right. So I'm mixing some of this Rust-Oleum paint in the color Nutmeg, and I'm mixing it with some gray that I just happened to have on hand in a old sour cream container, because they're great for this. You can just throw them away when you're done and mix them up however you want. Label the lid. It's wonderful. Keep those things around. And just adding the gray to the nutmeg, and I like to mix paint with my heart. So just whenever you get to the desired color, then is going to be the time to add in your water. And I think it's 1 part paint to 2 parts water. Could be more, don't quote me on that one, but I just kind of poured until I thought I had the right consistency. And then I'm going to label the lid with my project and the date so that I can remember, because I will forget what this was for. And it's really handy. It's really super easy to just wash out your old sour cream containers or yogurt, all those things. Super nice. And here we are. It's the moment of truth, the moment we've all been waiting for. This is it. Do or die. We're doing it. It's going to happen. We're about to put some paint on an antique washstand. I might be regretting this. I might not. We're just going to have to wait and see. There it goes. There it goes. Okay, that's kind of the color I was going for. All right, okay, so paint it on. And then wipe it back. Paint it on. Paint it on all around the edges. Remember, those were the spaces that were holding the old finish, and it was really dark. So I really didn't want them to be really contrasting. I wanted them to kind of blend in. So we're going to see if the paint wash is the way to go with different tones of wood. So at this point, I think it's going pretty well. I'm happy with the finish, and I know after maybe another coat, it's going to be right where I want it to be. And then something terrible happened. As I was moving the cabinet, it started to get a little wobbly, and something has broken. What is this? Oh my gosh. These caster wheels are made out of wood. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe I just broke these caster wheels. I didn't even realize that I could break caster wheels. We carry on, and I contemplate, am I going to just take off the other 3? I don't know. I do not know, guys, but I am so mad about this. Like, Who makes those things out of wood? Oh well, moving on. It just goes to show you that sometimes with projects you're going to find, like I said, snags along the way, and you have to just kind of think, how do I troubleshoot this? How do I pivot and go a different direction? But thankfully, the paint wash is turning out quite nicely, I think. It's showcasing this beautiful tiger wood on the side, and yet it is completely just making the tones match, kind of camouflaging their differences. And I think it was definitely the way to go. And even on this little groove that I had trouble with, it was just kind of making it blend in. It was still going to be a little bit of a contrast, but it's not going to be a splotchy, non-matching contrast, if that makes sense. So I did end up doing 2 coats of the paint wash, and at that point, I feel like it was just exactly the right color that I wanted it to be. I have seen where people will come back later after a paint wash and put on a gel stain, and that will achieve a really cool finish too, where it's just kind of toning the wood with the paint wash, and then the stain comes over and looks just really nice with it. So that's not what I did, but I've heard people can do that. My next challenge is this towel rack. Man, I decided I wanted to reinforce it, so I'm going in with some wood glue. And I like to use a paintbrush. Just helps it to get right where I need it to be. Paint both pieces that you paint both pieces. Glue both pieces that you want to glue. And I'm also going to put a nail through just to hold them securely right through the bottom. I clamped them, and then I thought it was a good idea to pick it up, and that was not a good idea. So then I did all that again. I hadn't put the nail in yet, but I was encouraged to do it now and to not pick it up like that again. Oopsies. And just let that dry. Next, I'm paint washing it also to match. And you'll notice this is also a different color from the stand. So, fun. But after it was paint washed, it matched perfectly. It was just completely uniform. And that was a good way to take a piece of furniture that has multiple wood tones and to camouflage it so that it all looks nicely together. And I think I did do maybe 3 coats on this one just so that it would match. I wanted to make sure. And after I finished that, I went in with a polyacrylic top coat to coat it all, and it put a nice sheen on it. Made it a really beautiful finish. I like the polyacrylic because it is clear. It doesn't yellow over time. It is a water-based, so it's not exactly as durable as a polyurethane would be, but it does make a really nice finish, like I said, without the yellowing. And I did do 2 coats on the top of this cabinet. And now we're down to the home stretch. It's just the last few steps. I decided to use the same hardware, and I love this one. I noticed that it's all kind of different color, so I'm going to paint it in this Rust-Oleum metallic black paint that I really love. I laid it all out and taped off the spots that I didn't want to paint, and then just painted them. It's amazing how new hardware or paint on a hardware can make such a huge difference on a piece, but it really does. And this one is almost ready to go. So installing all of the hardware and doing some staging and some measuring so that I can get this beauty listed. And just to remind you what she looked like before. And here's what she looks like now. If you found this video helpful or entertaining or anything inspiring at all, if you would do me a favor and just subscribe to my channel if you'd like, it would be so encouraging to me. I really love to share, and I love all of you all who've been so very kind and leaving your thoughts and your impressions and your ideas in the comments has really been so fun to interact with you all. As always, I'm so glad you're here.